Guests to join us. Please let us know where you're joining from, what your favorite children's TV show was when you were growing up in the chat box. And we'll get started in just a minute or two. Okay, we have a full program today. So as folks continue to trickle in, like I mentioned, please let us know where you're joining from and what your favorite children's TV show was when you were growing up in the chat. But before we start our discussion, let me share that the Children's Media Association is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization that brings the children's media community together for great presentations and both virtual and in-person events. We currently have chapters in the Bay Area, Los Angeles, and New York City, with other chapters to be announced soon. Our presence is international, with members in the US and all around the globe. So you don't have to live in the Bay Area, Los Angeles, or New York City to be a part of CMA. What's unique about our Bay Area chapter is our focus on tech, software, apps, technology, toys, and research. But as you will see today, our reach spans beyond that, with many of our members and exec members having careers beyond this traditional tech sphere. And if you enjoy today's presentation and you are not a member yet, we'd encourage you to sign up to be a member. If you're located in the area, we encourage you to consider joining our Bay Area chapter. If you don't live in the area, but your work focuses on tech for kids, or you're interested in that type of work, please also consider joining this Bay Area chapter, our chapter. We'd love to invite you to join us. And if you're already a member joining us today, thank you for being here. So now on to our scheduled event. We're calling today CMA Bay Area Town Hall, because we're eager to connect with all of you and grow our community, to share a bit about ourselves, chapter updates, and also to hear from you. We have a full executive board for the first time in a long time, and we wanted to introduce ourselves and share our goals and vision for the chapter moving forward. We also recognize that this has been a difficult time for many of us in the industry, with many eager to network, but also take that a step beyond just networking to really connect and to build a community that will help us during this time of uncertainty. And we are here to be that community. Our chapter specifically is really focused on building a space where all of us can come together regularly to find and to be a support. So before we jump into meeting our new exec team and a deeper panel discussion, and then we will be sharing updates from our chapter and eventually opening up for a Q&A, I wanted to give a few minutes for our chapter advisor, Donna Mitroff, to introduce herself and give a little background into our chapter and what makes it special. If you don't know Donna yet, getting to know her is a reason enough to join our Bay Area community. She founded the Bay Area chapter in 2018 and has been a powerful and inspiring force in shaping our strong community and children's media industry in general. So I'm pleased to pass it off to Donna to share a bit more about our chapter's history.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Thank you for those kind words. I think it's a wonderful history. And I just had a need. I needed to find my people. I moved back to the Bay Area, where I went to school a long time ago. And when I got back from living in Los Angeles, where I had lots of children's media people, lots of friends, I came to the Bay Area and I said, where are they? And someone would introduce me to someone who would introduce me to someone else. And at one point I said, I don't know if they know each other. They're all introducing me. So I invited everybody to my house, and we had about 15 people showed up. told me there was a hunger. So we just started meeting informally. We called ourselves the Bay Area Children's Media Group. Those letters didn't work very well, but we would meet in someone's community room in their apartment. We'd meet at someone's home in the backyard. We would meet in coffee shops, in restaurants. And there was an event held in the Bay Area by I think it was Digital Promise. Anyway, David Kleeman, who's been in this business as long as I have, joined me there. And I said, you got to meet some of these people I'm meeting here in the Bay Area. And so he joined us for dinner. And at the end of everyone introducing and saying hello, he said, you know what? You guys ought to consider becoming a chapter of the Children's Media Association. We didn't even know there were chapters forming. And so we had a small group meeting, our Bay Area Children's Media Group, and we decided we wanted to go for it. So we put together a committee, always have a committee. We learned what it took to write a proposal, what steps we had to go through. And I got to tell you, those people from the very beginning, and I'll specifically mention Clement Chow, who now is running Leapfrog. He kind of took the lead and said, we're the Bay Area. We are going to create the future with all of the new technologies. That's going to be our specialty. We're not going to forget our history, but we are going to kind of highlight the future, how we're reaching children that's different from what it was when I started in the 80s, actually even before that. So we put our proposal together, it was accepted, and in 2018, we launched our own chapter. We were the second one. New York was first, Los Angeles was second, we were third, and there are others making plans and coming online. Our business is it's a networking business, and it is getting to know each other and finding out how we can help each other. So I am thrilled that we're here today, and I am really thrilled that we have this executive committee. I mean, they're so great, I can't tell you. I do want to add that we want to grow, we need to grow, and we're, as I said, 3 chapters now, and we have above us the National Children's Media Association. So some of us old timers have been part of the original CMA National, and that's the job of the advisory committee. When members of our executive committee have a problem, when they need help, when there's something that comes up, they call me, they call the other members of my team, and we see what we can do to help. So I'm proud to be a member of the advisory group, and I will do it as long as you guys keep coming to CMA. Now, Charlotte has asked me to talk a little bit about my background. So I need to start by telling you that I was an elementary school teacher. I was a special ed teacher. And then I did a PhD at the University of Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And after finishing a degree in what was at that time implementing innovations in education, I heard about a job at WQED, the Pittsburgh PBS station. And my job there was to bring the innovation of public television and learning by television to the schools in the Pittsburgh area. So I got the job. I went to WQED, and the first day on the elevator, I met Fred Rogers. Yes, the Mr. Rogers. And by the time we took the elevator up to my floor, I was hooked. And he said, "Why don't you come by sometime and maybe we can do something together?" He had his own company. I worked for WQED, but my boss said, "Sure, go ahead. It's always good to, be working with Fred." So I had that wonderful opportunity to be introduced to the world of children's media by Fred Rogers. And he became the Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder, always reminding me, remember why we do this. We're doing this for children. They're impressionable. We have a tool. We can help them, but we have to be conscientious about it. So from that, I was in Pittsburgh for many years, and then my husband and I relocated to Southern California, where in the 80s I was in the midst of so much going on in children's media, and I worked for WQED. I did that altogether for 13 years. I ran their West Coast office and did many other things. I taught children's media at USC. And then we moved to the Bay Area, and I continued to do some consulting, and I'm still working in children's media and doing other things. And I look forward to meeting all of you. That's me. Now I want to pass it to one of my new colleagues. I never would have been able to meet Jerome if it hadn't been for children's media. But he brings so much energy and passion to what we're doing here. So I'm happy to turn it over to Jerome and have him tell them about you, Jerome.
Thanks so much, Donna. It's just so great to just see the legacy of everything you all have built, and just so glad to be here. So I'm Jerome Rawson. I live in Mill Valley. I'm the Director of Operations for the Bay Area chapter. And so that really just means I'm the treasurer and the secretary rolled into one. I support Charlotte. Just thrilled to be able to do that. I'm so excited to be on the board. And I'm here to provide extra help for the rest of the board if they need it. For outside of CMA, I'm an independent composer and songwriter, and I focus on kids projects. So now I'd like to pass it off to Josh.
Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Garrett. I'm the Director of Events for the local chapter. I've been doing that for the last almost 2 years, hard to believe. By day, I am Vice President of Development at a company called Creativity Incorporated. And for the last 25 years, I've been helping toy companies make toys, all sorts of things you see behind me, and many, many, many more. And I'm also Chief Creative Officer at a company called Readyland, which makes books that kids can talk to using Alexa. And I live in San Francisco. And I will pass it along to Christina.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christina. I'm the new director of memberships. I am also brand new to CMA, so I'm really excited to be part of this org and to meet all of you and to learn from everyone here. And I'm very interested in hearing from the membership what they would like their membership with CMA to feel like and how to build community with each other. Outside of CMA, I am a designer. I have been a designer for over 20 years. I'm doing marketing and book design and all sorts of projects in that world. I also am the founder of a Filipino children's press. So I publish multilingual children's books in different Philippine mother tongues. And in addition to that, I'm also a docent at the Letterform Archive here in San Francisco. And I'm East Bay. I live in Oakland. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Megan Rothschild, who I'm just getting to know, and I'm really interested to hear about her insights into research and data and her work with social emotional development with kids.
Hey, friends. My name is Megan Rothschild. It's funny listening to Donna's background. Mine is oddly similar in that I started as a teacher and then went and got my PhD in education with an emphasis in really where that merges with innovation and technology. So kind of coming from that intersection of spaces, but so excited about what that means for creativity and awareness and identity development. And so those are the things that get me all juiced up. I'm your director of workshops. And then my day job, I am the head of research for digital services at Scholastic. So that's me. And I will introduce Catherine to you. And I'm lucky in that I actually got to work with Catherine for a while before at a previous place that we both worked in. And she is on my list of favorite people. So
Thanks, Megan. Hi, everybody. I'm Catherine Green. I am the CMA Bay Area Director of Marketing. Super happy to be a part of this group. Everybody is amazing and everybody shares really the same passion for the industry, which is just so exciting to get into conversations every time we're together. I'm originally from Boston. I now live in the Oakland Hills, and I am in the field of communications, specifically PR, also do some marketing. Have worked for a variety of children's companies, and I currently contract. So with that said, I will pass it back to our amazing president, Charlotte.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm Charlotte. I'm the new Bay Area chapter president. During the day, I am a learning design and research specialist at Begin. I do a lot of research with children and with parents and a lot of play testing to make sure that our products align with best practices and what children and families are looking for and need. Before that, I was an early childhood educator, so I'm very drawn to the ability for children's media to transcend a lot of the barriers that I witnessed in the classroom. I think we have a great privilege in bringing early experiences and education and fun to children through media. So thank you all for introducing yourselves. See what a wonderful team I'm so lucky to work with. And we're also eager to meet all of you, our members and people who are interested in becoming members. And there's a lot to learn from this group. And I know I'm eager to learn more about their unique career paths that we just heard a little taste of, but also their thoughts on the state of the industry and advice. I bet a lot of our audience members are interested in learning some of their expertise and advice they have, particularly during this time. So I want to start with Donna and Josh. The children's media industry has faced challenges recently with layoffs and uncertainties. Reflecting on your experiences, how have you seen the industry evolve throughout your career, and where do you see it heading? So I'd like to start with Josh.
Well, I'll just start by saying that I'm in the toy industry, and although I think it's a little different than the children's media industry, but in the 25 years I've been doing this, what I've seen is a lot of cycles of ups and downs, where things are booming, then the dot-com bust happens and everyone retreats, and then the economy comes up and everyone's out there innovating, and then the mortgage crisis happens. So this kind of happens, and COVID. But what I've seen is it always comes back, and it always comes back in the most interesting way when people and companies start focusing on innovation again after retreating. And the other part of it is that it always adapts to the newest technologies. So when iPhones came out and iPads came out, everything had to adapt. And I think right now we're going to see that to some degree with AI and those types of advances. So kind of being up on those trends and the changes and trying to figure out how you can adapt yourself and your own education to embrace things and then turn them around so that they're good for kids instead of bad for kids, which is a challenge, I think is a critical thing. But the main thing is as slow as it gets sometimes, I've always seen it come back. It's always a cycle.
And Donna, what do you think about that? How has the industry evolved?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I think about, Charlotte mentioned in the opening, we're going through a tough time. And this idea of cycles that we go through. We just mentioned one that I lived through. It was big at the time, but we're beyond that. And that's from broadcast to cable. In the early days, children watched their programs on Saturday morning on broadcast TV. And that was like, or sometimes in the morning before school or right after school. And that was like you had to make an appointment to watch your favorite show on TV. And then cable came along, and it was such an eruption of what had been in place since the early advent of home television, and that was broadcasting was being threatened, and they didn't believe it. And I was there. I heard them say it's going to go away, and it didn't. And what it did for children was, instead of having to make an appointment, it's time to watch my show on Saturday morning or after school, we called it a destination. The kid could always go to this new thing called Nickelodeon, and there would always be something for kids. That was a big adjustment for the industry. And of course, we're going through another one now. We're going from broadcast, we're going to cable, and now we're going to streaming. And then we're going to go to AI, and who knows what's going to happen. But I think what Josh said is, in my experience, is true. It's a big disruption. It looks as though we'll never make sense out of it again. And we always come back, because remember, the children's audience will always be there, and they will always be important to whatever means is delivery is going to be available to them. Because if you're delivering and you can reach children, you have a chance of keeping them loyal to you forever. I mean, look what's happening now. All these little nostalgia shows are coming back. I just saw the other day that something is going to be redone with strawberry shortcake. Why? Because moms raised their kids on strawberry shortcake. They were raised themselves, and now they want to have that nostalgia to bring their children to it. So there will always be something for kids. Our passion and our concern is to be the Jiminy Cricket. It's my passion, not everybody's. To be the Jiminy Cricket that says, yes, you can do this, and it can work, and you can reach children, but just remember why you're doing it.
Thank you both so much for sharing that. Yeah, it's really wonderful to hear your expertise in terms of this, it being a cycle and things are going to pick back up again. Something I've been thinking a lot about during this time of uncertainty is how it's forced a lot of us to be really creative and really resourceful. And a lot of beautiful content has come out of that. And so that brings me to Jerome, because Jerome, through your YouTube channel, Jerome Bananas, I love that name, you demonstrated that it's possible to grow an audience with minimal resources, relying on your own creativity and your own production skills. I'm curious to hear what advice you would give to independent creators in children's media who are just starting out. How can they effectively use their available resources to build an audience and stand out in an often crowded space?
Thanks, Charlotte. So when you say minimal, I really am doing this on a shoestring. And there's so many better channels for kids out there. But I approach this as just sort of a brand exercise, and just to try to, instead of doing a children's record and putting on Spotify, like, well, what if I just put it on YouTube? And so after just over a year, I have 1,000 subscribers, which is not nothing, but it's only 1,000. But I'm using Canva for the art, which I'm embarrassed to tell my animation friends. And I'm just trying to do high production value for the songs. So I'm trying to make it sticky. There's some SEL, there's some character education songs up there. There's a couple fun songs. And then it's just digging into the data. So I know a couple things not to do, but everybody says it's best to do consistency with this stuff. And for better or worse, like I sort of have a regular gig, which I love. I'm writing music for a tech company they're focused on early childhood learning, and it's using paper books. So if I'm busy with that, like I'm doing good. Like that's totally fine. Um, but I think there's something about just putting something out there and seeing if something works. And for some reason, there's a video I did. It's a public domain song, and it's huge in India. It has 101,000 views. I have no idea why. And so of course, I'm going to try to recreate that. But it's just an iterative situation, and figuring out the algorithm of YouTube is just like fascinating to me. And so for me, it was sort of a downtime between gigs, and I'll still try to work on it. And it's just one of those things. If you don't have sort of work, I just figured out like, well, I'll just create the work myself. So thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you, Jerome. Thank you for sharing all that, and congratulations. Everyone should go check out his channel. It's great. Now moving on to Catherine. I want to learn a little bit more about projects that you've done, because you've worked with so many beloved children's media brands, from Leapfrog to Age of Learning to Nintendo. So looking back, was there a particular moment or project that was pivotal in shaping your career?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know if I really have one moment. I'd say I've had many moments. And some of them were actually at Leapfrog. That was a job that I really loved. I still have many friends from working at Leapfrog. And I'll say my position there was in communications. I was one of two on the PR team, and we had an agency. And I remember I sat next to the learning team, which I loved because I learned so much about the company. And I think that is one of the things in my career that was interesting, is that I got the opportunity to sit next to the learning team and see the company through their eyes. I would overhear some of their meetings, or I would sit down with them and pick their brains. And it was just very interesting to kind of dip into different parts of the company from the perspective of, I was the one trying to tell the stories. And you can't tell all those interesting stories unless you look for them. So they were there. And then across the aisle from me were the toy testers. So when I first started, I remember sitting there and I was like, God, this is so annoying. It's so loud all day long. They were testing all these toys. There was all this beeping and blah, blah, going off. But it was another one of those moments where I stopped and I said, wait a second, this is the heart of the company here. This is what parents are hearing at home. So here I have the learning team helping me understand how children are learning from these products. And then the toy testers that are obnoxiously trying to get them to stop making certain sounds. But I think that truly just going into different parts of the company that you work for, especially in this space, is so important, because everybody has a passion that is very difficult to find as consistently, I've found, across other companies and across other industries. But the love for this industry is really at the heart of what we're all doing.
Yeah, it really is. And I love that you said that, because I can feel that just listening to all of you too. Like, we're all, coming and we're all a part of this industry in such different ways, everyone on our team, but we all share that passion. And it's really exciting to hear more about all of your stories today. I want to move to Megan and Christina. Both of you are champions of media that's authentically inclusive, right? We're talking a lot about inclusivity, which is really important, but it's even more important that inclusivity is authentic and it's meaningful. And both of you do such a wonderful job of centering that in your work. So how do you ensure that diverse communities and cultural backgrounds are meaningfully represented in the design and development of children's media products that you're a part of? Let's start with Megan.
So my background is kind of interesting. I'm born and raised in Hawaii. My bachelor's degree is in Hawaiian language. And growing up as a Caucasian who is not in the military in Hawaii. It's a very own type of experience, but I ended up becoming very closely connected with many people who are very, very strong advocates in the Native Hawaiian community. And I learned so much just by being present and witnessing and watching and then doing whatever I could. And it's a learning process for sure. But then moving to the mainland became its own set of learning opportunities, let's say. Because I had been in Hawaii for 33 years. So I found that there were times that I could advocate for kids' representation and stories in ways that allowed a door to open, and then I could quickly hand it off to somebody that I knew to make sure that the right expertise was in the room, that it was somebody's actual lived experience. And learning how to kind of balance my positionality became really important to me in forging relationships and building coalitions and doing all of these things. And honestly, so I have a sign on my bookshelf that says, "When you get there, remember where you came from." And that is like so dear to my heart. That is central to me because I'm just a kid from Kaneohe who grew up like running in the streets. And uh, that that means that I have something that is very important in making sure that the work I do is pushing for the right kinds of things because kids deserve it, but doing so in ways that are not extractive and in ways that really are getting the right voices to the table insofar as I can do anything about it. And so that's why that matters to me. And those are just like some of the things I think about as I do it.
Thank you. What about you, Christina? Anything to add?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Megan said. That's really beautiful. I do something pretty specific and niche. So I'm focused on creating for Filipino children mostly and sharing Filipino stories with other groups. But I also think about, I guess, positionality and naming who I am and making these books. So I also really try to be aware. I'm a mixed race Filipino American. And I create stories that are regional in the Philippines. And I work with also regional creators, but sometimes I'm doing some of the writing. So I think it's really important to name who we are in our role so that we're aware of, like, I don't feel an entitlement to tell stories that are from a certain region necessarily. I understand I'm working with people. I'm trying to be accurate. I didn't grow up with this information and I kind of need to do that extra work. So that helps to name that. And also to also not be extractive, to think about how we're giving back. And I think just being good storytellers, like the good storytelling is specific. I really try to not be or ask my creators to be performative in some way. If they're making a story from their region, they're representing that culture. So I try to not have an expectation of what it should align to. And to be curious about what are very specific differences and to be open to the kinds of stories that may come. It might just be a slice of life story. It might really be demonstrating a part of that culture. I think that's kind of key to being authentic is letting people be human and diverse and whatever package they come in. And it is just really important. I see the effect. I've been publishing. It's a very small indie press that I have. And here in San Francisco, I'm actually up close and personal with the communities that are reading them. There's a huge Filipino American community here in the Bay. So I actually get to see the impacts that some of my books have had on kids. Like I've met a mom who named her daughter after one of my books even, and kids that are bringing the books to school as like sharing it like with their classmates. So I know the value of what representative media can do for kids and also how other cultures can then relate to the one that's in that book. So
Thank you both so much. What you shared is just so valuable. I'm learning so much just from this conversation, and it's really important. All of us are storytellers in children's media in one way or another, no matter what type of work that we're doing. So what you just shared is so important for all of us to be constantly thinking about. in our work. I'm going to turn it back to Josh. So Josh, you've had a remarkable career, contributing to iconic toys and brands like Furby, Star Wars, and Sesame Street, as well as writing children's books for Readyland. And I know a lot of us might be here today looking for advice. So what are 2 to 3 pieces of advice that you would give to someone who's looking to succeed in this industry?
Well, my background, I didn't get into this industry until I was like 30 years old. I had a whole career as a professional musician first, a classical musician. And so one piece of advice I would give based on my own experience is that when you're looking to break into something, try to figure out what makes you special in that arena, interests or background that you have that someone else might have. In my own example, when I started looking to change careers, I specifically looked for job offerings that mentioned music because that was a whole expertise I had. And I found a job making this job at a company that made toys, especially around music, and that has carried me through. Like that specialty of mine that other people didn't have was really my entrance into it. So that's one thing, if you can find something like that. Second thing, and this sounds kind of, everyone says this, but find what you love to do, because there's so many people out there trying to do things. And if you have 2 people who are equally qualified, the one who really loves what they do is going to be better. And they're going to bring more into the products. They're going to bring more joy, especially when you're dealing with kids. So whatever element of children's media that has brought you here, as you look for more specific opportunities, really focus on what you love, because that will give you an edge. It really will, in a practical way. And then the third piece would be do your homework. I mean, there's so much information out there. Do the work, because other people are doing the work. Other people are researching and learning. And the most important thing from my point of view is there's amazing academic stuff about kids and so on and so forth. But spend time with kids. How do they play? How do they learn? It's not a coincidence that several people on this panel started as teachers. They're people who interact with children. And interacting with children, if you have kids, it's an amazing blessing. I learned more about play from having my own 2 kids than I could possibly imagine. If you don't have kids, you need to find a way to really immerse yourself in the child's view of the world, of what delights them, of how they learn and all that stuff. So, and I would say that's part of your homework as someone who's interested in designing for kids. So those are my 3 pieces.
Great. Thank you so much, Josh. We're going to keep with the advice-themed questions. And Catherine, I'm going to head back to you and ask, for someone who's just entering the field of children's media, what early career experiences do you think are the most valuable?
Oh gosh, there's so many things that you can do. I'd say some depends on age and stage. Internships are always amazing. I think networking is so important, and I think people are embracing it more than ever. So try to just get out of your comfort zone and, go introduce yourself to at least one person, ask for other names. Just try to throw yourself into companies and take risks at different types of things you're doing, because you never know what you're going to excel at or be really interested at that you could pursue further.
Great. Thank you so much. Now let's move on to Megan, back to Megan. What trends are you most excited about, and how do you see them shaping the future of the industry? So Josh and Donna were talking a lot about these cycles, and Donna was mentioning streaming and AI. What trends really stick out to you?
I think one of the things that excites me the most is more and more people are thinking about the ways that kids are going to be able to be creative with the innovation. One of my soapboxes is we should never strive for innovation. Innovation should be the outcome of what happens when we apply really great practices to really important solutions. I mean, to really important problem spaces and well-defined problems. And innovation should be the outcome of that, because we're bringing that kind of a take. And I think if we can do that, I think we're going to be providing kids with things that are just beyond what we can even imagine right now. And so I think that's what's exciting me, is that opportunity space.
Great. Thank you all so much for sharing. I'm so eager to continue this conversation, but unfortunately, we only have an hour together. But if any of you watching today have more questions for this wonderful group of folks, please put them in the chat box, and we'll get back to them at the end during our Q&A. But right now, I want to pass it off to Christina, our new Director of Membership, to just share her thoughts about what membership means in the CMA Bay Area community.
Thank you, Charlotte. So as I said, I am very new to this role. So I think I am interested in hearing from the membership what they would like from CMA and how we could build gatherings and events and connecting together. I would love to start a series of mixers, like more informal gatherings, in addition to the programming and events that CMA has. So I'd love to have more opportunities to talk to people in person. And I'd like to also send out a member survey to gather people's feedback on what they're looking for. And I know that networking is very important, but what else people might be imagining they would want? Community building, learning from each other, perhaps. I'm really interested in maybe things that we haven't done before or what people would like to see. We will be having a Oakland mixer in November. So I don't know if I should share that now, Charlotte, or we can share that later, but we'll be rotating different parts of the Bay where we have mixers. So we'll be having this one in the East Bay in November, and in January, I'd love to have one in the South Bay, and also events later in the North Bay and San Francisco.
Great. Thank you so much, Christina. And I just want to share from my perspective that I'm just so excited to have Christina as our Director of Membership. As I'm sure you can hear from what she just said, she is so eager to build not just a group, but really a community, and to build up this sense of belonging among our members. And that was already felt in the first event that she was helping put on last month. So it's going to be a wonderful year and new chapter with her as our Director of Membership. So thank you, Christina. Now I want to pass it off to Josh, who's going to share a little bit more about 3 upcoming events that we have.
So we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the Children's Media Association nationally. And so in December, probably on December 4th, so if you want to note that in your calendars, we're planning to have an in-person party in San Francisco or nearby. We're hoping to do some pretty exciting stuff, but we're waiting to finalize everything before we announce it. And that will be, again, an in-person event, hopefully with some fun bells and whistles for everyone to come join us. We also, over the last couple of years, we regularly have in-person get-togethers at places like cafes, and we've had them in San Francisco and the Peninsula. We had a great one last month in the East Bay at Donna Freeman's house, dinner and all sorts of social stuff. We had a picnic up in Sonoma, and so look for more of those. We're trying to do those regularly for the in-person events. I see someone asked the date, December 4th, and we'll send out a note to everybody. And I also see someone asked about virtual opportunities to network. We haven't really done that yet, but if it's of interest, it's certainly easy to set up. And in person is the best. But if we have found that the Bay Area is challenging because it's so geographically distributed, and that's why we've been trying to rotate where these events are. But that makes it hard for a broader group to get together. So that's very interesting idea. And then we're always trying to schedule virtual events, like the panels we've had about AI or about Sago or various things over the last couple of years. So keep a lookout. And the best way to get notified, we have recently, thanks to Catherine, we've recently revived our email list. where we have our Bay Area group chapter email blasts. And so if you're not on that list, send a note to Catherine with a Y, as you can see on the screen, at childrensmediaassociation.org. I'll put that in the chat, asking to be added to our mailing list. And I think that's it.
Great. Thank you, Josh. And if you wouldn't mind putting up the slide deck, we just have a save the date slide. So if folks want to, so if folks want to take a little screenshot or photo of this, these are the 3 upcoming events that we have. So so as Christina mentioned, she'll be hosting a mixer in Oakland on November 14th at Cleo's Bookstore and Bar, which I've never been to, but I looked it up and it looks really cool. So it's going to be a great event. And then Megan will be hosting another in-person picnic in Sonoma Saturday the 7th. So we try to keep, as Josh was saying, and Christina too, these in-person events, spread them out, as we know all of us are in different parts of the area. So now it's time for a Q&A, which Catherine's going to lead for us. And we want to hear from you. Any question that you have or comment about what you'd like to see, please put it in the chat. I know we had some questions that folks emailed to us ahead of time that we also can discuss. Thanks, Catherine.
Of course. Yeah, I'm going to actually start with a question that came in the chat from Catherine. Love the name, Catherine. She would like to hear about kids versus parents in terms of as consumers and how we think about content creation that can be enjoyable to both of them. So I'm going to maybe hand that back to you, Charlotte, and then maybe you could hand it to Megan or somebody else.
Great.
If you want to both answer it, that would be great. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think I'm coming at this from a research angle. I think it's so important to talk and know your consumer. So talk to parents and not only play test with kids, but talk to kids very regularly. Like I know we at Beacon, we have parent panels every week. So we're keeping on top of what parents are thinking about and thinking about what they already enjoy with their child, how we can support those daily experiences and kind of enrich or inspire like really meaningful interactions between parents and kids through media. And for me, I think a lot of that is understanding what current interests and needs are and testing it and seeing what consumers think. I also think what Donna was mentioning earlier, right now we're seeing so much nostalgia media. I know that my brothers are watching like Blue's Clues with their kids. Full House, my niece is loving Full House. So thinking about how we can bring back and kind of revitalize the old favorites. But I'll pass it off to Megan to add to that.
I'm even seeing things that aren't even that old that are being revived, like Wonder Pets. I saw Steve Altair post that they're doing a reboot of Wonder Pets with Apple TV. And so like, I think there's some really interesting things that happen when we think about the parent perspectives and the child perspectives. In kids media, we talk a lot about co-viewing and the fact that there are a lot of opportunities when parents or not even just parents, when families, when caring adults, when older siblings, etc., are going to view a show, listen to music, listen to an audiobook, read a book together. There's a lot that happens in that exchange between the two people. If you listen to David Kleeman talk about screen time and its discontents, like the fact that a screen is not a screen is not a screen. They do different things, and they do different things in different ways depending who's using it and how. And so I think when we think about that multi-generational experience of media, there is something to be said for nostalgia, or something to be said for what can hook the older generation in, but to rely too much on nostalgia gets you too far into a space where what is the new nostalgia going to be? You know, it's Scholastic. Scholastic's been around for just over 100 years. There's a lot of nostalgia around book clubs and book fairs. But if we rest too much on that alone and don't give kids new experiences for themselves for today, what are we giving them to be nostalgic about in the future? And so that is definitely something to think about in terms of balance, but then really creating those spaces where that dynamic engagement can happen.
I love that so much. Actually, whenever I think about this topic and the nostalgia factor, I always go back to Nintendo, because when I was working with them, it was I didn't realize it, but once I entered that job, I thought, wow, you know what? They're trying to capture a whole new generation of kids who have no idea what Nintendo is, but their mom or their dad might. And you have to target these kids in different ways. So for me, professionally, from a PR standpoint, it was just really interesting to see how to get to the kids, because we all know how to get to the adults, but how do you reach those kids and get to them, especially because social media comes with so many restrictions of who can do what and at what age. So anyway, that was great. Thank you both. Next, I'll go on to a question from Jade in the audience. Jade says, what is the most challenging aspect of working in such a fluid and ever-changing field? I think I will hand that question over to Josh.
Well, I would say personally, I think what makes it challenging is what makes it the best job in the world, right? Which is that it's always changing, and you always are learning new things, and you're always having new challenges. And the challenge is that you can only rest on your laurels so much. But I think that's actually the great thing about it. So, being willing to throw out all your beliefs and when new technologies come along or children start playing in different ways and just trying to be a kid along with them over and over again, I think is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So.
Yeah, that's great. And that actually is a good transition to our next question, which actually came in before the panel. And Charlotte, I'm going to give this one to you because I think it's on a lot of people's minds, and it also relates to this ever-changing industry. How do you have CMA help you get a job? Can CMA help you get a job? Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked me, because I credit CMA with helping me get my current job, which is really my dream job. I owe a lot of credit to CMA. That's why I'm so committed to volunteering with CMA, because I really believe in the power it has to connect people and to help you find the career that's right for you. So I joined CMA a few years ago now, and I started off doing the mentorship program. I was pretty new to the children's media industry. I did some research with Lego and research with Sesame Street, but I hadn't had a full-time position in children's media. And so I decided to do the mentorship program. And I had a wonderful mentor, Alex Post Miller. Give her a lot of credit. She introduced me to so many wonderful people, including Donna. And I had wonderful, wonderful talks. And from there, I kept in touch with a lot of the folks that I had networked with and spoke with. And one of those conversations, I just had that gut feeling like this company, this job, or the work that they do really feels so aligned with my mission and what I would love to do. So we kept in touch. It eventually turned into the work that I do today. And so, yes, I do think that CMA can help you get a job. I think it's a lot of it is about what you put into it. There's a national runs and a wonderful mentorship program that I just referenced. And there's a lot of networking. I know there was a question about the virtual networking. National does they're called CMA Connect once a month. So it's once a month virtual networking across all CMA. So if you get involved and come to events, really follow up with the people you speak with and keep in touch, I think really wonderful things can happen.
Awesome. Thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Jerome. You're one of our newer members. Very exciting. So we're curious how you've seen your perspective on the industry change and how CMA has helped you personally as you became a member of the organization.
Yeah, so I'm an independent composer, songwriter, and I spend a lot of time just in my studio. And so just finding like-minded folks that do what I do is just so refreshing. And I'm always looking for networking opportunities. So just for me to see what other people were working on. And so some of it's confirmation bias of like, oh yeah, there is a downturn in the TV market. And I work across video games, apps, e-learning, like a bunch of stuff. I lean pretty hard into the tech area since we are in the Bay Area. So I can kind of ride different cycles a little bit, but I can tell there's just so much breadth of experience to draw from. I've been doing this for 20 years and I just have so much to learn. But I also learn from people who have just started. I'm also a teacher. I teach at SF State. I teach composition. And I learn so much from my students. So I try to be one of those people that's open, and I think it's just one of those organizations where maybe it's just this is the kids industry, but everybody's so nice. I'm around other folks in other mediums, and it's not always the case. So I just appreciate that. So thanks for the question.
Awesome. Thank you. We're running out of time here. I'm going to ask one more quick question to Donna, and then we'll hand it over to you, Charlotte, to close out. And in the meantime, look at the chat. I'll be pasting a link and some emails and stuff like that. So Donna, since you helped us kick off this journey, and we're all here today thanks to you, what do you think is the most valuable thing about CMA?
The most valuable. For me, it has been, and you've heard it from others here, it's the people I've met. They've become sometimes partners. We're developing things together. They have introduced me to people who have helped me. We used to say, and I think we probably still do, that in some ways ours is an incestuous business. We love each other and we love what we do. And when you get infected by that passion, it can take you so far. So what is my hope? My hope is that we keep growing and we keep supporting each other. I mean, that's in our bones because we do this work because it's creative, because it's meaningful, because it introduces us to other people, because it captures our passion. And if we can keep giving that to each other, even during difficult times like what we're going through right now, I think that is going to sustain us and help us keep our business growing and thriving because of how much we do for each other. So come join us. I think you're going to be surprised at the people you meet, how encouraging they are, how supportive, and you might just find yourself, there's somebody I can work with, and you end up developing something together that you never expected you would ever do. So come join us.
Thank you so much, Donna, and thank you to everyone on this wonderful team for sharing all your wonderful stories and your advice. I learned a lot, even new things about this team, and I hope everyone else did too watching. So thank you to everyone for being here today. We hope we expressed just how excited we are to continue building this community and how much we want to hear from each of you and get to know you. Before we wrap up, I wanted to remind everyone of a couple of things. My email will be in the chat. Catherine will share it in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time with any questions about being a member, events you want to see, and Christina and I can talk through that and make sure that what we're doing represents our community and what our members would like to see. As Donna said, please join us. We encourage those of you who aren't members yet to consider joining our community. And you can feel free to come to some of our informal events to get to know us a little bit better if you're still wanting to learn more about what being a member looks like. So we hope you enjoyed our town hall. A recording of this presentation will become available just after we sign off in the screening room and in our group LinkedIn page. Please feel free to like and share with others who may be interested in what we discussed today. So on behalf of the Children's Media Association, thanks again for being a part of today's discussion. There's so many great things happening in this industry, and we're grateful that CMA helps drive innovation and connection. So thank you and have a great rest of your night.